You've probably seen the Mediterranean diet pop up in health magazines, right? But here's something you might not know. It's actually being prescribed by doctors. So today, we're going to go way beyond the headlines and really break down the science of how this way of eating is becoming a powerful, evidence-based tool for managing chronic disease. Okay, let's just start with this one simple but really powerful question. What if your daily diet was a form of therapy? Now, let's be super clear. We're not talking about replacing medicine. We're talking about a nutritional approach that's so effective, it's been studied in major clinical trials specifically for its therapeutic power. So before we get into all the amazing things it can do, let's get on the same page. What exactly is the Mediterranean diet? Because, it's so much more than just a list of eat this, not that. At its heart, this is all about a pattern of eating, inspired by the way people in places like Greece and Italy ate back in the 1950s and 60s. The key here isn't a bunch of strict rules. It's about focusing on whole foods, things that look like they actually came from a plant or the sea. We're talking vibrant veggies, hearty beans, nuts, and fish. And the star of the show? Extra virgin olive oil. That's your primary fat instead of stuff like butter or margarine. Think of it less as a restrictive diet and more as a flexible and honestly really delicious foundation for your meals. All right, let's start our little tour of the body right where all the research began, with the heart. The diet's benefits for our cardiovascular system are probably its most famous, and for very, very good reason. The whole story really got started way back in the 1950s with this massive research project called the Seven Countries Study. A researcher named Ansel Keys noticed something incredible. People living in places like Crete and southern Italy had way, way lower rates of heart disease than people in other parts of the world. And what was the number one suspect? You guessed it, their diet. This one observation really lit the spark for decades of research to follow. And all that research led to this incredible number, 30%. A huge clinical study called the PREMID trial found that for people who were already at high risk for heart problems, following a Mediterranean diet with some extra olive oil or nuts slashed their risk of having a major event like a heart attack or a stroke by a staggering 30%. That is just huge. So how in the world does it pull this off? Well, it's like a multi-pronged attack on heart disease. The healthy fats from the olive oil and nuts, they help bring down that bad LDL cholesterol. All the fruits and veggies are packed with these things called polyphenols that help lower blood pressure and keep the lining of our blood vessels nice and flexible. And this brings us to a theme you're going to hear over and over again: the diet's amazing power to fight off chronic inflammation and oxidative stress, which are really two of the biggest bad guys when it comes to heart disease. All right, let's move on from the heart. Our next stop is our metabolism. It turns out this way of eating is a real powerhouse for managing conditions like metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. And the benefits just keep coming. For our metabolic health, a massive review of studies found that people who stuck closely to the Mediterranean diet had a 19% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. That really shows you its incredible potential for prevention. But what if you already have diabetes? Well, this slide looks at something called HbA1c, which you can basically think of as a report card for your blood sugar control over the last few months. When you compare it to a standard low-fat diet, clinical trials show the Mediterranean diet leads to a much bigger drop in those levels. And here's the kicker. This often happens without any strict calorie counting. That tells us that the quality of the food is what's really making the difference here. And the benefits are really comprehensive. It helps our bodies become more sensitive to insulin, which is crucial for controlling blood sugar. It's also particularly good at targeting visceral fat. That's the really dangerous internal fat that wraps around our organs. And get this, for people newly diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, studies show it can even help delay the need to start medication. Okay, so from the heart and metabolism, let's travel up to the command center, the brain. The connection between what we eat and how well our brain works is becoming clearer every single day. I absolutely love this quote because it captures the idea of food synergy perfectly. It's not about one single superfood doing all the work. It's about the entire orchestra playing together in harmony. You've got the omega-3s from fish, the powerful antioxidants from olive oil, the fiber from beans. Each one plays its part, and together they create this beautiful brain-protecting symphony. And the evidence for this is really compelling. Study after study has linked this diet to a lower risk of developing devastating diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. For folks who are already starting to have some mild memory issues, it seems to help slow down that progression towards dementia. And the mechanism? Well, it's that same theme again. It helps cool down inflammation in the brain and reduces the biological signs of damage. Finally, building on this whole idea of reducing inflammation and protecting our body's cells, we need to talk about a sensitive but really important topic: the role of diet in cancer care. And we have to approach this one very carefully and very responsibly. So let's just ask the most important question right out of the day. And the answer is an absolute, unequivocal no. The Mediterranean diet is a powerful complementary tool. Its role is to support a patient's health and well-being. It should never, ever, under any circumstances, be used to replace prescribed medical treatments like chemotherapy or radiation. It works with conventional medicine, not instead of it. So what can it do? Well, as a preventative tool, research suggests it might help lower the risk of even developing certain cancers in the first place. For patients and survivors going through treatment, studies show it can really improve their quality of life, partly by helping to reduce pain and inflammation. And for some, like breast cancer survivors, sticking to this diet is even linked to a lower risk of the cancer coming back. So, as we connect all these dots, from the heart to our metabolism, all the way to the brain, you've probably noticed that common thread we talked about. The unifying secret, the real magic behind the Mediterranean diet, is its incredible ability to fight back against two of the main drivers of so many modern diseases: chronic inflammation and oxidative stress. And this all brings us to one final thought. This isn't some new fad that's going to be gone tomorrow. This is an ancient way of eating that's now being proven over and over by modern science. In a world where we're facing this rising tide of chronic illness, it really leaves us with a powerful question. Could the time-tested wisdom of this diet be one of our most important keys to managing modern disease and building a healthier future?